What's going on, everybody? Hey, listen, before we continue in this episode, have you checked to see if you've subscribed yet? You need to subscribe. Come on, if you like these videos and you're enjoying what you're watching, then it's about time that you go ahead and subscribe. Maybe you haven't noticed yet. Check now. Did you? No? All right, go ahead, hit that notification button, subscribe. It helps YouTube to know that you like our content. All right, see you on the next one. Peace. How's it going, everybody out there? Welcome to another It Starts With Me. We're going to have a great time today. We've got the lovely Samantha Louise here with us, and she is an empowerment individual. She helps to teach young people, young ladies, young women how to empower themselves. So this is going to be a great episode. So, get yourselves ready. It's going to be good. All right. First off, I'd just like to say thank you again for showing up for our program here. It Starts With Me happens every single Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. All right. So we are getting down with the get down. And we just want you all to know that this is what it's all about. It's about the transitional phenomenon inside of people that causes them, to become the best version of themselves, and understanding a little more about what it takes to get there. The sacrifices that possibly are made, or the situations that people were put in order to become, it's kind of like that cocoon that, becoming that butterfly, and what it takes to go through that entire process and come out on the other side to hopefully inspire somebody along the way, to let them know, hey, listen, just give it one more day, give it one more shot, give it one more chance. And your success, your hope, your dreams are right on the opposite side of that. So we hope that we're inspiring you in that type of way. All right. Now, on Fridays, we have the Community Beacon, and that's at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. And that's where myself and the co-host, Michael Seville, are here together to hopefully offer the opportunity and the information of lessons that we have learned, right? In order to open up the mindset to become more free. And the experiences that we share, as well as the lessons that we learn, we enjoy sharing those with you all. So we hope that you'll tune in for us there. And again, on Monday nights at 9:00 p.m., Mike Seville, the co-host of Community Beacon, he'll be there, and he is doing what it takes to be that great businessman, to be that great father, to be that great influencer, what it takes. And he's giving out those crucial lessons as a business mogul and a real estate king, to what it takes to get where you need to get. All right. So please tune in to him on his station at Michael Seville, and all others are going to be on Tenacity Foundation YouTube. All right, so let's talk about Samantha, right? Samantha Louise is a leadership cultivator, guiding girls and young women to become natural-born leaders. She is an author, a Minnesota Teacher of the Year, and holds a master's degree in educational leadership. Her approach to leadership and learning offers hands-on experiences to develop selfhood for self-leadership, sisterhood for healthy relationships, and leaderhood to inspire change in the world around us. Every workshop, retreat, and lesson offered by Samantha incorporates whole person well-being, cultural mind-body science, interfaith spiritual practices. Samantha has been featured on such popular podcasts as She's Invincible, Influential Women, and the Rhonda Grant Show to discuss demasculinization of women, healing through vulnerable justice, and new perspectives on leadership. And now she's on It Starts With Me, right? All right. From a farm in rural America, Samantha is a small town girl with a worldwide vision to transform leadership development and personal empowerment for next generation female leaders from every corner of the globe. Let's welcome Samantha to the front.
Hello. Thank you so much. I'm excited for this conversation.
Awesome. So am I. I'm glad to have you here. I love what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be a blast.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have children?
I do not. All of my passion projects so far in life have become my children, like the essence of bringing them into the world, So I don't have children. No, not yet at least. But um, yeah, I absolutely, obviously love kids and youth. Children are the inspiration for all of the work that I'm doing in the world.
I love it. So I have three, and two of them are young ladies, a 23-year-old and a 16-year-old, and then the
Awesome.
youngest is my little man. He's 11 years old.
Very cool. I love that. Um, I want to know from you, if this is okay. How are you experiencing the different developmental phases, like young adulthood, teenhood, young teenhood, preteen? As a
Yeah,
parent, how do you handle that?
that's beautiful. I love it. I don't get questions too often, so I'm enjoying that. And so it's been quite the challenge. And every single day I'm learning more and more. The thing about it with the developmental phases that I found that helps me to overcome the challenges is that I'm forward thinking. So I'm always attempting to think about the things that I can pass on and how I can, make my communication more clear and how I can provide for my children better things to help them develop, creating like that free mindset inside of them where they can, be the best whomever they desire to be. So I think that that helps me. And I also think that sometimes, I've had, a lot of challenges in that because maybe they weren't ready for it, and maybe I pushed them too soon. So through every single challenge, I reassess and then I approach differently, attempting to find the perfect formula. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so cool.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So, I mean, what a part of that, Samantha, is just that, the way I grew up, I didn't have both parents inside the household. I only had my mother for the most part. And so as a young man, I truly had this desire that if I ever had children, I would give my everything, to raise them and to be there for them. And I've been living that lifestyle ever since.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's
Yeah.
profound commitment.
And
Isn't it?
it was a commitment that I made before I ever had children.
Yeah.
So, and how about you though? I mean, 'cause this is about you.
Mhm.
And I really want to understand what gave you that inspiration, because I mean, just like mine, you're inspired to help lead and foster this type of relationship with young ladies and not even having had your own young ladies as of yet. I'll leave the
Mhm.
door open for you.
Yes, thank you. I For me, all of it starts with this aspect of what you shared in my bio about coming from a farm community. And I grew up outside of a small town on a farm. I spent most of my childhood outside in the fields and the barns, working alongside my family on our family farm. And growing up, that was the cultural context, was conservative rural Minnesota background, right? But I had parents that, like you, wanted to give me opportunities to grow and be the best person I could be as fast as I could be. And I started to realize that messages I was receiving from my community, my cultural community, my faith community, whatever community context we want to explore, some of those messages weren't aligning with what my parents were setting me up to do in life. And I started to experience these, like, the confusion inside of me of, well, I thought I was good enough to be myself, but in this place I can't, right? I'm hearing things and seeing things and observing at a young enough age that if I show up authentically, I won't belong, I won't be accepted, I'll be shamed, I'll be betrayed or abandoned, I'll be hurt in some way. So I think I started to learn for myself at a young age how to show up differently in different contexts so that I could be valued in some way. And I didn't realize until young adulthood that that's not really a healthy thing, right? We learn it to survive in some ways growing up, but then the different elements of not being authentic 24/7 for yourself and for the world takes a toll. So I experienced it first when I was teaching. I started out as an educator, as you mentioned, and my favorite age range to teach was middle school, so sixth, seventh, eighth graders. And I was finding, especially with middle school girls, boys had the same kind of conversations and questions, but it was more so with the girls where I could hear in the hallway, I could hear before and after school or before and after classes, these questions and conversations about how they needed to look, how they should, right, how they should present themselves physically wherever they were, who they needed to be around in order to be considered cool enough, what it felt like if they didn't belong anywhere, what it felt like to be isolated and alone, how it felt if they had a disability, how they felt if they came from the wrong family, right? So I saw it in myself, and then in young adulthood started to explore what self-development meant. And then when I got into teaching, my passion was really about advocacy for equitable quality education. But when I met kids for the first time as a first-year teacher, that advocacy started to change for me. Instead of just being about quality education, it started to become more about changing the education system completely, right? Like standards-based learning is great. Having frameworks for teachers is awesome, but what the heck are we doing here to help kids actually become humans who know who they are and have a purpose and a passion in the world that they're proud of? Instead of being afraid to speak up and say, this is what I believe in, here's what I want to do. And I found it especially true to be true for girls, that they were groomed and conditioned not to do those things, right? You can't be weak, but you can't be strong. Don't be a show off, but also don't be left in just all these strange paradoxes that run through our heads. And then I realized it's not just me, it's almost every single girl that I meet. And then I started working with women eventually and learned adult women are struggling with the same thing. Right? So to take it all back, I just started wondering if adult women at the beginning, at the end of their career, later on in life are struggling with these things, why aren't we doing it something earlier? So it's kind of come full circle in my life. I started working with children, moved into a couple of other industries for a while, but right now I've just been brought back to my mission and my passion for doing this early in life, looking at prevention and appropriate development for girls so that maybe they don't have to experience burnout, or maybe they don't have to experience manipulation or the feeling of I have to have a mask or a different persona wherever I go, or I won't be loved. I'm not good enough as myself. Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
All right. Felt like you were prepared.
That's my cheeks are getting red. It all just came out.
That was all from the heart, 100%.
Yeah.
That was passion right there. That was just delivered. And what I mean by prepared, I mean that this is exactly what you were supposed to be doing. You know, so I mean, there's so much, as far as you discussing social disparities, educational disparities, and if you will, I'd like to go back though to that time when you were a young lady and it sounded almost to me as if you were in search for your own value, your own core value, like there was some self-doubt or that you didn't understand your worth. Can you tell me a little bit more about how that came about exactly? Because it sounds like your parents really did a good job with you. I know that there was a lot of social and community things that fell
Mhm.
on you. But what was that feeling, especially for young ladies out there? What was it that you were feeling that caused you to feel as if there was, you didn't understand what your worth was?
Well, I think the feeling of confusion, number one, because it didn't make sense in me. Like I said, to think that I knew who I was, but then be challenged on that in all these different places where, like my family has a legacy in our community, right? So all of a sudden, I felt like I shouldn't be creative. I shouldn't be a dreamer. I shouldn't love to read so much. I shouldn't be so smart. I should be preparing to be a housewife. I should be preparing to help support a husband who's going to be a farmer. I shouldn't have dreams. I should take on the responsibility of the legacy of being from a generational farm family, right? So, any dream or vision I had, it just felt like my dreams were being crushed or suppressed. And I was just a kid. And then into
How old
teenhood,
were you when
I
these
think when
thoughts were going through your mind?
I would say probably fifth grade, probably 10 years old when I started to really think about these things. Right. So it'd be like third, fourth, fifth grade when I was inside of myself questioning things, but I didn't know who to ask these questions to because it's the developmental phase of realizing that, like, I'm not part of my mom and dad anymore. I am my own human. And there are things not making sense, but I think if I ask them, I'm going to sound stupid. So I better not ask them.
Hmm.
And then getting into middle school and high school, it kind of morphed into this external perfectionist, hyperachiever, be the best at anything that I did kind of behavior and drive and tenacity. But then within myself, it was like inside, be a rebel, right? Because all these rules are so stupid. What
Hmm.
people think and say is so ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. That's not how the rest of the world functions. So, how come inside of this little bubble it's acceptable or mandated to live this way? So, I think I learned how to separate, like take the confusion and say, okay, I know how to behave and perform so that it looks like I fit in. But inside, I can escape to this inner world of me,
Hmm.
and I can find space and privacy to have those moments of inner quietude and inner exploration and imagination and dreaming.
Wow. I mean, this is powerful, right? Especially when we start talking about young people and we're going down this process for young ladies, because I find that like you said earlier, the same thing was happening for young men and young ladies, and I think that it's just amazing that what you're doing with young ladies now is so necessary for not just them, but for our young people all together, because I hear you talking about this battle, this inner outer battle. It's like, this is me on the inside, and this is who I show the world. And it, we don't have to live that way. You mentioned it earlier, like becoming your authentic self. It's a lot less demanding physically, physiologically, mentally, to
Yeah.
just be you. But as a child, especially at the age of 10, 11, it's hard to understand who that person is. And then it can be even more difficult to be accepted as whoever
Mhm.
that person is, because you're still finding out who you are.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so I mean, in the middle of all of this confusion, it sounds like there was like programming going on.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think for me, a lot of the programming was just about if you work as hard as you can possibly work, then you will be deemed as valuable because you're putting in the time, you're putting in the effort, you're making a difference, you're making an impact, right? So sacrifice any of your own personal needs and just work as hard as you can. Be the best student you can be with the best grades, because then you're smart. In sports, train as much as you can, be as smart as you can with your technique and strategy, because then you'll be the best athlete and then you're good. If you're an artist or in music, once again, learn the theory, learn the technique, study, train, practice, be the best at all of those things. Go to college, go to the best college, the most prestigious institution, challenge yourself to the highest levels there. But I guess, like the element of, yes, challenge yourself and be your best and get out of your comfort zone is valuable, but it was never met with take time to reflect, take time to slow down and go within. And that's okay, right? There's permission and space for that. Instead, I felt like I had to hide that part. Like it was always a show. It was always a performance. I always had to be on. So the value of hard work. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah. I think that was the number one program that overran everything else.
Yeah, and how you were saying that, you were like, and then you'll be good. So it's like this expectation to be quote unquote good is by meeting these goals. And those goals weren't even your goals. They were goals that were passed down on you, which is the programming, right? And I think that's got to be difficult, especially like old school parenting. You know, it's like, hey, listen, if we're ever going to get by in life, you're going to have to take on dad's business. You know, you're going to have to be the best mother. You know, you're going to have to be great at sports, because they don't, you know, in my culture, they don't give little black boys, you know, degrees and make them doctors. You know, you have to play basketball. You have to play football.
Yes.
You know, you cannot achieve this type of level because nobody's going to allow you into their circle. So you have to do this, and you're like programmed to seek out these things when you really just want to be what, you know, you want to be yourself and whatever that is, you know. So what are you doing now to help these young ladies to not fall into that programming and become confused?
Well, I think for me, the last 10 to 15 years of my life have been exploring the extreme opposite of being an overachiever, a hyperachiever, like the driven go-getter that's always out in public. So I think there's an element of opposition or dichotomy that I'm trying to bring to girls, which is whatever you believe is truth and right and good for you right now, what would be the opposite? What do you think would be wrong or bad or unacceptable? And then just like in the safe space of the circles that we create, what would it be like if you did that? What would it be like if you lived that or experienced that? What would it be like if you let down some of the expectations that you already have at age 9 or 10, at age 16 or 17? What if you just didn't have an expectation? What if you didn't show up? What would happen? And starting really to answer your question more directly, exploring what is your personal value system? What is your personal belief system? And what's your true identity? Right? So it's really big questions, but together as a group, trying to explore and break them down in practical conversations about daily life. Practical experiences that these girls bring up naturally in our opening community building sessions. And also the element of bringing parents along so that it doesn't have to be a fight or a competition. To say, your moms and dads love you. They're doing everything they can for you. So what's it like when you get frustrated with them? Right? When you get mad at your mom, why does that happen? What if you looked at it from a little bit different lens? What is your mom trying to do for you in life that results in you getting mad at her or feeling frustrated? So a lot of, like you said, communication between child and parent at all these different developmental phases, to say, this isn't a fight. You're all in it together. You're actually doing it because you love each other. So where did we learn to fight for love? And how can the fight for love look a little bit different?
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. That, oh my gosh, that was powerful. How can the fight for love look a little different?
Hmm.
This is powerful conversation right here, and I love it because every day I'm looking to create that same type of freedom. And the
Hmm.
thing about freedom is, there is a fight behind freedom. You have to fight for your beliefs, you have to fight for your values, you have to fight for your truth, and for your truth to have its place inside of this world, and to create that safe zone where that fight can start to happen, and where there's a support system, for you to explore these different thoughts is very important. We're not living in a world where there's no TV, there's no internet, there's no cell phones, there's no radios. We're living in a world where there is a ton of information flooding the system of our children, of our young people, and of our own minds. And where every single day our thought process can be affected and changed in a moment, in a breath, in a thought, in the twinkling of an eye. It can be changed. And dealing with youth, that can be devastating, because a video can go viral, and it can be the exact opposite of what maybe they need to learn. But because they're now getting this brand new exposure to something that most people would not get exposure to until they're this age,
Hmm.
the thought process changes, and now a battle erupts inside the household because I'm dad and I don't want you to learn about that type of stuff right now. You don't know what you're talking about. And the frontal lobe is not developed well enough inside of a youth for them to really understand the consequences of these things. So getting fed the opportunity of nature and nurture in a positive environment where we can explore the things outside of our own minds, our own mindset, is powerful. And
Hmm.
it's almost like hairline dangerous.
Yes, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. It's the balance of like the idea of tread lightly when
Ah,
you're exploring the oppositions. Tread lightly, because if you fall too far into one, you might not ever come back.
yes.
And that's kind of the scary, the dangerous part of it, isn't it?
Yes, but it's very necessary, I would think. So
Yes.
I'm very glad that you're doing these things. I would think that how is what does it look like for the parents when they're coming into this? Because I think that it's very important to have them go along in this process.
From Yeah, it's a really good question because like from my angle when talking about Brave Girls specifically, my focus is totally on the girls. And originally, I didn't even have parents in mind, right? And one day, one of the mothers contacted me and said, could we do something like Brave Mom alongside of Brave Girl? And I said, yeah, why aren't we doing this already? Let's go do it. So she was the catalyst for uh, like the reconnect between parents and children. And I thought to myself, this is part of the programming from being an educator of we only focus on the kids, but in school we're always talking about why aren't the parents involved, how can the parents get involved? And here all of a sudden I had parents asking, can we be involved? So it was a natural kind of inspired engagement, I guess. And they're helping to drive and shape some of the education for the girls to understand the balance of what is going on at home, and what can the girls be discussing so that it's more applicable and transferable into daily life. But also, what do moms need? Because who stops as a mom to say, like, to tell their family, I'm stressed out, I'm burning out, I need help, there's something wrong with my body and I don't know what it is, right? All these signs of extreme stress and overwork. And so many women are told that subliminally or unconsciously that they can't stop to ask for help. So giving moms permission, or dads, depending on the context, to just stop and be held in a space that today it's my job to take care of you. Your job isn't to take care of anyone else. So what is it that you need? And based on these needs, how does it inform programming in the future to make it real? Not based on my opinion, but based on, like, 5 minutes ago, what did you experience before we got into circle? Last night, what did your family talk about at dinner? Did you get to have dinner together? Do you get to see each other at night? All these questions that are just like normal everyday life, and letting that inform and guide what they need next.
Yeah. So, okay, this is these are big things. This is big, because what we're talking about is family talk, and we're talking about the opportunity for people to really, open up and explore themselves, and to grow as a family. So now we've gone from young ladies to a family dynamic, a wraparound dynamic, because there's more influences. And I mean, just one of the things that you were mentioning earlier in your life was that your parents were developing you in this with this free growing mindset. Hey, listen, Samantha, you can be anything that you desire to be. You don't have to stay here in this farm like location and mentality. You can grow and be whatever you like. And then you go outside of your house and it's like, no, you cannot do that. And like, the social environment is wreaking havoc on our children today.
Yeah, and it's deep. It's so deep. It's physiological, like you said before. It's mental. The cognition of children, the processing skills of children, it's skyrocketing, right? We're seeing it everywhere, that mental health concerns, emotional concerns. And I guess from my perspective, what I've learned about humans is that ultimately it's like we're in spiritual crisis. It's not a mental health pandemic. It's not an obesity pandemic. All of these things are culturally learned, culturally informed, or societally informed. And I think that it's a spiritual crisis that we're in right now. And the world has some really deep digging to do to come back to what it means to be human, and come back to purpose, just for themselves, one single person at a time. What's my job here? What am I being called to do?
That's deep. That was deep. There. Across the world, I mean, everyone has their own thought process, their own reality that they're living in, and there's not as much as a unified reality. And this is the price of that freedom that we were talking about, that liberty, about giving everybody their space to really become whatever they desire to become, because maybe sometimes we become what we're not meant to become.
Mm-hmm.
That can be counterintuitive to the process of this freedom. And this is something that I speak about with my wife and my children and with my circle of influences. It's like allowing for that freedom to enter into the door is a good thing, because it teaches an individual to begin to make decisions. But one of the things that I noted that you were doing earlier is something that I do, and it is teaching people how to analyze, or teaching young people how to analyze what they have and to make the best appropriate decision.
Yeah.
What can you name some of your processes that you utilize to do that?
Yeah, I think like the one specific word is discernment, right? So if the end goal is discernment,
yes,
to make a healthy choice so that you can thrive instead of spin around and try to survive in life, like discernment is the pivot point.
Yes.
And to get there, there has to be clarity. There has to be a knowing, enough knowing of the inner voice inside of you, right? To say all the, like you said before, all these things coming at us. If I can't hear that it's still strong but very small voice inside of me, right? Because I believe God's voice is that whisper inside of us. It's not going to yell at us. It's a constant, calm, quiet voice that tells us what way to go and what way not to go. But if we can't hear that because everything else is drowning it out, then that's when we're going to end up veering off onto the wrong path. So I think for me, I've learned so many different tools and techniques and practices. But I think the key strategies that I keep coming back to, number one, instead of teaching people by telling them what they should do, think, believe, or become, for me, it's all about facilitation. So stepping back and creating really good open-ended questions, and then shutting up and listening and holding space and having guidelines where the power dynamics are evened out and balanced. The people who are quieter are encouraged to express and practice being brave and vulnerable. People who are more naturally outward and loud with their presence through their voice, they sit back and wait for a talking piece, whether it's virtual or in person. So getting really clear on what it means to facilitate a group instead of teach people what to do is number one. Number two for me is everything about culture, right? So understanding that I have only one kind of culture in the world and every single other individual in the group has their own culture. And then we might find intersections, we might find commonalities and themes. And it's from those themes that we can start having discussions about what's challenging us, what do we love about life, what makes us tick, what makes us joyful, and then go into what do we want to do with it? Do we want to stay where we are? Do we want to make life better? Do we want to be better people? And exploring all of that through the best of our culture, the best of our faith practices, but also equipping or pairing some of those less tangible things, right? Like culture and faith, we can't always hold in our hands. So to be able to articulate and express things that sometimes are nonverbal, and then pair them with actual tools and techniques, right? Like, how do you prioritize values that you've learned culturally? How do you sit in meditation or quietude and hear an insight? And then what do you do with an insight? How do you journal effectively so that you're not just like splurging onto a page, but then what do you do with it? So, right, everything about introspection and quietude, but then taking it into action.
Beautiful.
So that was not a very direct question or response, but yeah, it's finding processes, I guess, instead of the specific, like, choose your tool and technique out of this giant toolkit. But here are the two main processes that I use so you can do it for you instead of you doing it for me.
Well, what I took out of that was a lot of guidance and a lot of mentorship, and I think that, that's very important. I think that maybe the world is really becoming more and more prepared for this. I'm still a little cautious with that because, with all of the many coaches that are here and everywhere, sometimes what it is they're very finite,
Yes.
rules that need to be upheld in order for you to be able to become the best version of yourself. And it's not as much as this mentorship or this, this guidance or, because, and that's what we're looking for. And the thing about it is that if we've lost that still small voice, I thought that was powerful, prolific, what you were saying. There's a scripture in the book of 1 Kings, the 19th chapter, which I'm sure you're familiar with, about Elijah. And Elijah has been having all of these struggles, dealing with Ahab and all these other, and all these other people that are looking for his death. And finally he speaks with the Lord, and the Lord takes him up into a mountain. And when he gets up into a mountain, there's a strong wind that comes by, and then it breaks the mountain. And he's listening for the Lord, and then there's like an earthquake, and then there's all of these huge elemental things begin to happen. The entire earth moves around him. Lots of confusion. But then after everything passes by, a still small voice appears. And it's like God was in the still small voice. And it's like, that was prolific. When you stated that, I felt it. It resonated because, sometimes all we see is the mass amount of confusion and noise. And our belief is, make your move now. Because everything is falling down, everything is being destroyed. But sometimes we need to just get into that, did you say quietude? And right there is when we find out exactly what we're meant to do and how we need to process and move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I keep thinking about something you said in your opening about just keep holding on. Right? Even when you feel like it's not worth it anymore, you're about to give up, just hold on for one more moment and string those moments together, and you will rediscover the faith that you needed to have. You'll redefine your faith at an even deeper level, your hope in humanity, your belief in mission, whatever it is that you're about to give up on. Those little tiny moments strung together are the challenges that bring you back to it.
Wow.
Right? And then the faith is then your faith is unshakable.
Yes. Well put, well stated. And I love how you brought the beginning to the end full circle. Very well. Listen, how can people get in contact with you, Samantha? How can they learn more about what you do and the code of sisterhood?
Yeah, my website is samanthalouise.co. So from there, you can navigate to whatever else you want to find. Personally, I love to connect with people on Instagram. It just seems to be my platform. So that's where I'm trying to grow and get to know people and develop my community the most. And the Code of Sisterhood is a new podcast. I just launched it 4 weeks ago. But it's exploring conversations with women and men about what the heck does it mean to be in a healthy sisterhood? How do we develop these? How do we engage in them? What are challenges that we go through in life that lead us to the understanding of filling the gaps or the voids in healthy relationships? And then my favorite part, the symbols of sisterhood. What are colors? What are words? What is music? Who are the role models? And what are the feelings that come with authentic, real supportive community?
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I've got a lot of people that a lot of ladies, a lot of sisters that would be great for you to speak with that are on this same type of level. So I'd be glad to give you some numbers and everything. And, definitely connect with the Tenacity Foundation so that I can introduce you through Instagram as well.
Yes. I love it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We're glad to have had you on our show. Is there any final thoughts that you would like to leave with the audience?
I had this really fascinating experience this morning with our church got a new pastor, and I grew up with a female pastor. She retired, and for quite a few years, we've had just a string of interim kind of visiting pastors. They've all happened to be male for the most part. And we just got a brand new pastor. She was just ordained a few weeks ago. And I met with her this morning to have coffee. And when I left, I was driving away and I fell into the ugly sobbing, just crying. Everything was coming out of me. And I had this sense of I've been waiting to meet this woman for so long. And I don't know who she is yet. I don't know what we're going to do together. But I guess my final parting words are be patient, keep the faith. And when you run into people, when it's a synchronistic moment, you're going to find the right people that you're supposed to be with. You're going to find your purpose on your path, and it's going to be probably at the most unexpected time. So let go and trust that you're on the right path.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
What a wonderful individual. What a wonderful soul. Samantha she's the real deal. She's authentic. She is genuine. And she has a heart to help, to guide, and to really be an inspiration for young ladies in her community, and I believe everywhere. So please, please, please take the time, connect with her on Instagram, let her know how much you appreciate her words, and see if you can get in contact. Maybe you can be a part of that code of the sisterhood. All right, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're going through, remember there's always a better day, and that better day is in you. So no matter what you're thinking, as much as it starts with me, it starts with you. Peace.